Astrology is the myths of the stars and planets, telling the themes and plots of our lives. These stories come to us daily through our satellite, the Moon. She is constantly spinning astro news. Hi, I'm Mary Lynn LeBlanc with Moonwise. Today I have as my guest Daniel Fiverson, who is a frequent guest here on Moonwise. And Daniel and I thought we would just talk about stuff that's been going on lately, because there's some heavy-duty aspects out there in the stars and planets, and so this is what we're going to do today, right, Daniel?
Yep, that's spot on.
That's right. Well, so what's on your mind about the state of things?
Well, you don't have to be an astrologer or even study astrology to feel that there's something happening. We're all feeling it. We're all under all these pressures that we have been living with really since March and really since the first of the year. As astrologers, we are able to look at what these influences are and know where the pressures come from. And that's what I'd like to talk about a little bit today. What's really going on is, in spite of all our intentions that we acclimate ourselves to these pressures, the pressures are continuing, and the new moon that occurred on the 18th and the full moon that's going to occur on September 2nd. Both hold some really significant configurations in them. And by configurations, I'm talking about the arrangements of multiple planets aspecting each other. And the two that I want to talk about today in particular are the Grand Cross, which I spoke about last month here, and the Grand Trine. One being a combination of oppositions and squares, and the other obviously being a combination of three planets all trining each other. And what makes these configurations so important this month is because in both cases they involve the new moon. It involved both the moon and the sun in the Grand Trine and the Grand Cross at the new moon, and we have the sun as one of the angles of the Grand Trine at the full moon. And most astrologers don't pay a lot of attention to crosses and grand trines when it's just one of the moon or the sun, perhaps, because it's a fleeting moment. The moon passes to that point in a matter of hours.
Yeah, but not a fleeting moment in one's natal chart.
Well, not in the natal. I'm talking about transits. Right. Or the sun, it's there for a day. But because it's a full moon and a new moon, these have much longer lasting effects. The new moon in particular really being the template of the next 28 days. So what I'd like to do is unpack what is happening. I think we should talk about the full moon today, because we did talk about the upcoming new moon last month of what was coming up in the Grand Cross. The Grand Cross. The Grand Cross in particular really started to form back in mid-July. And what is really causing the angst in that Grand Cross is the square from Mars conjunct Eris to Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter. The Eris to Capricorn angle, 90-degree angle between those planets. The other two angles of the cross have been asteroids or perhaps Venus and Mercury. They have not been outer planets with the impact. But as I've said multiple times here, what is really making this year so intense is Eris. It's not just Mars squaring Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn. It's Mars conjunct Eris. And the best example of the Mars Eris in our world, without knowing any astrology at all, is every day we turn on the news, pick up the newspaper, or watch something about some horrendous fire or explosion somewhere. This is Mars conjunct Eris in Aries, clearly. Right here in Santa Fe, we're all suffering this fire up on Rio and Medio. That is filling the town with smoke.
I have to add that we're recording this a week ahead of time before this airs, and so hopefully that fire will be be contained and maybe put out in a week's
but as we speak, that fire is 0% contained, and the smoke is just drifting all over town, and it's enhanced. It's also impacted by fires up in north of us, up in Colorado. The good news is that it's nothing near what's happening in California. Not that we should feel good about it, because California is literally on fire. We saw the explosion in Beirut. We're seeing incident after incident of fire and explosions. This is that Grand Cross. This is that square, that 90-degree crisis angle from Eris to Capricorn. Mars and Eris in Aries, and the outer planets, the heavy outer planets in Capricorn. And this is the stellium, the Capricorn stellium, the combination of those three planets called the stellium, is really the signature astrological event of 2020 to begin with. The year opened with it in January. It's going to close with it in December, and we're going to have it ticked off time and time again between now and then, and it's going to continue into next year. The other part of this, in particular, if we dissect it even further, is the square from Eris to Pluto, which I've talked about is something that hasn't happened in 2,700 years, and we have had the first one again in the beginning of the year. We're going to have another one in December, and then we're going to have two more next year. We're far from done with Pluto and Eris, and we can see its effect all through our culture, our society, and it has become the undertone of our current history.
I'd like to say a little bit about that square between Eris and Pluto. It's a last quarter square, which means that we, inhabitants of the planet Earth, need to adopt a new consciousness. Mm-hmm. People have been talking about this in metaphysical circles in various different ways, and you would say with climate change, it's also been talked about. Especially young people who have become activists in that field have talked about it. We have to look at the way with Pluto in the sign of Capricorn, an Earth sign, how we structured our view of the planet Earth has to change. We've constantly, over our lifetimes and prior to our lifetimes, have, for the most part, thought of the Earth as something we could continuously use to our advantage. And that does, and not even being aware most of the time of whether or not it was wise to use the Earth in the way we are. That we've deplenished the resources the Earth offers us without thinking about their being recycled, regenerated, or anything of that sort. And so that particular square alone is telling us that we must look at our relationship to the Earth in a very different way, or we're not going to survive here. We might not. It may be too late for all we know.
What would you say about the disseminating phase? Because it's actually still in the disseminating phase. It's not quite. It has not passed into the last quarter phase yet. It'll do that in 2021.
Right. Well, I would say that those voices, and I hope that our voices among them, those voices of leading, I'm thinking of McKibben and others who, people who have been environmentalists who have spoken out, and we've heard this for decades now, that we've had that we have to change the way we're treating the Earth and her resources, and those disseminating phase, from a personality perspective in terms of moon cycles, those people who are born during a disseminating phase are teachers in the archetypal sense. They're not necessarily teachers in the classroom sense, but they are people that have a sense of an understanding of what is needed for us to evolve and move forward. And so either through their actions or their particular projects or something, there's something that is often learned from them. Somebody who has a mother or father who's a disseminating phase personality picks up a lot of wisdom and deep understanding from those kinds of parents.
That's very encouraging.
Yeah.
It really is.
So you have to look at those people who've been the vanguard in the environmental climate movement and say, they are the teachers, the wise people, the philosophers about how we treat the earth and how we work with the earth. But come to that last quarter phase, and then it's sort of like it's time for the group, meaning those of us, whoever's left here on the planet when that exact phase kicks in. Okay. It's time for the group to act with a different consciousness than what we've seen in the past. And I'm talking about universal consciousness here.
Consciousness is the word. Dane Rudder called it a crisis in consciousness.
Right, and that's our awareness of what we're doing. I mean, are we, are we just still burning trash in our backyards? Not that many people are doing that, but this would be a gross example, creating more pollution into the air. There would be significant things that we go, no, we shouldn't do. Are we minimizing our use of plastic? And we would do that consciously. We'd be in a store and we'd look at things and we'd look at what's containing them and say, I have a choice here. I'm going to take the item that's in paper, or I'm going to take the item that's in glass, or something of that sort. Or I'm going to take the item that isn't packaged so that it doesn't have as much to throw away. That's even better. Mm-hmm. It's hard to do that with a fluid like milk and
right.
water.
Right.
But that's what I mean by your consciousness, your awareness. You're not doing things out of unconscious routine. This is what I always buy at the store. This is what I always eat. This is how I always, you're actually doing it with the thought of this is best for the planet. This is best for all of us inhabitants of this planet.
Well, it's a perfect lead into the Grand Trine at the full moon. Because the Grand Trine at the full moon.
Tell us which planet. Well, you'll get to it.
Yeah, the Grand Trine is also Mars and Eris on one angle, the lunar south node, and Mercury. So we have, and the Grand Trine at the new moon was Pallas Athena and Mercury and Uranus. So in both cases, we have mental energies. Pallas shows us the big picture. Pallas helps us, really see what's happening so we can get some perspective on it, get some distance from it. And that's what Uranus does as well. It gives us objectivity. And Mercury, both of them, they bring it down to our left brain so that we can find rational remedies and rational outlets for the information that we're receiving. But it is both of those trines are encouraging our consciousness. And, Eris is probably even less understood than Saturn. Everybody is afraid of Saturn. Saturn is, the Grim Reaper in most people's minds. But Eris scares people even more because of her reputation of being such a provoker and a destroyer. But, if we really look at history from a Pallas Athena perspective, she didn't really start the Trojan War. I would, suggest that it was Helen who started the Trojan War by leaving her husband and running off to Troy. What she did was bring the Greek classical age to an end, because at the end of the Trojan War, all of the heroes of Greek history were in the underworld. But even more interestingly, Aeneas, who was a nephew of a royal nephew, fled Troy after the war, and he went to Italy. And Aeneas was the founder of Rome. So the Roman Empire was born from the end of the Trojan War. This was all accomplished by Eris. And this is synonymous with the time that we are passing through. We are witnessing the end of, the normalcy that we have taken granted for, if not centuries, perhaps millennium.
So are you saying that Eris may actually be significant in producing a new type of empire or a new form of governance?
Eris is a bitter pill, because what she does is she enables something to happen that could not happen in any other way. It's a drastic measures.
Right. Well, we need to take a little break. Daniel Fiverson, my guest. First, before we go to the Moon Minute, I'd like to remind you listeners that you are listening to KSFR 101.1 FM or at ksfr.org, and this is a public radio station that depends on your contributions and support. And so this is a good time during the show if you're listening to hopefully you're listening, to click that donate button up in the top right-hand corner of the homepage and make a contribution to keep programming such as Moonwise and other shows that you like to listen to alive and thriving here on the airwaves. I'm Mary Lynn LeBlanc with my guest Daniel Fiverson. We'll be back after the Moon Minute and a message from the station. Stay with us. Welcome back to Moonwise. I'm Mary Lynn LeBlanc, and today I have as my guest Daniel Fiverson, frequent guest at Moonwise, and we're talking mostly about the heavy-duty action in the skies that's mirroring these rather stressful times that we're going through there. It's really, though, the stress of birthing something new.
Right.
And so, Daniel, you were talking before the break about Eris and and her place in mythology at the creation of Rome, in playing a role in that whole plot, and
it was the aftermath
of it. And so, kind of looking forward in the aftermath of what we're going through, I'm curious if you have anything to say about that. But you may have some other things to say about this full moon energy that's coming up soon.
Well, the full moon energy, again, we come back to this Grand Cross, and it's a lot of Earth. What it's about is getting grounded. I think the best remedy that we all have to work off the angst and the anger and the tension and the disappointment and the sense of loss and all this emotional stuff that is just, we're all carrying. And we could talk about that, because that series of, moving into a conjunction with Neptune. We'll maybe talk about that in another show when they're conjunct, in a month or two. But we're all carrying this heavy emotional burden. And the way to ground ourselves is to get out in nature. Go for a hike, go swim in a lake, go out, just get out of the house. Go in your backyard, in your garden. Just get out, get some fresh air. Get as close to nature as you possibly can, given your lifestyle and how healthy you're feeling. We have to break out of this mindset that we are somehow trapped, or that we're stuck, or that we are, fixed, that we can't move. A Grand Cross is very, very generative. It makes stuff happen. They're all cardinal signs which are just primed and loaded for action. And they're going to generate tremendous movement, and we have to be proactive with these energies. We can't push back against them and say, "Oh, poor me," and I can't go see my granddaughter, and I can't eat in a restaurant, and I can't do this, and I can't do that. We have to identify what we can do. We have to be positive about it. But nature is the answer. Just get out of the house, go for a walk, take a bike ride, go for a hike, do something to smell the flowers.
I can't help but think about where the nodes are with what you're saying. I mean, the North Node is in Gemini, South Node in Sagittarius. These two signs have to do with the environments we live in. The Gemini, the physical environment, the local environment, the neighborhood. You're saying be familiar with your neighborhood, with nature.
Right.
Especially, this is not about the buildings. It's not. It can be about the people, especially with Gemini, because air signs are very relational to other humans and things and animals, other animals, and Sagittarius is more the environment of our perceptions, of our beliefs. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, if you notice on a cultural level or a national level, people congregate according to their beliefs. Not religion is one that comes to mind with the word congregate, but since some are called congregations, but they're of other natures too. I mean, we hang out with people of like minds.
Right.
And yet that's the South Node, which can support us in some ways in these times to push us to look at what's going on a more local, immediate neighborhood sort of level.
The South Node's not our enemy. It holds as many gifts as it does challenges.
Right, right.
The challenges are just the gifts we haven't realized yet.
Right. And all those people of like minds are definitely those that are helping many of us get through these times.
Right.
Yeah.
So there are ways to work with this. We're moving through an evolutionary liminal space and time. And I'm going to suggest to all the listeners that 3, 4, 5 years from now, and I hope that time frame doesn't frighten you too much, we will look back and we'll say, oh, my God, look how far we have come. Look what we have accomplished. Look how much better things are turning out to be. I understand what we had to go through to get here. This is a healing crisis. Symptoms are an attempt by the body, and in this case, the body politic, to heal.
What would you say about people being born during this time with these kinds of heavy-duty aspects and figurations in their chart?
Well, the truth is, Mary Lynn, is that you and I and our generation were born in a bubble. Okay, we were born after the war, born after the Great Depression. We lived through the Eisenhower years, the 50s. We had color television. We had, convertible. We had it all. Every other generation that has grown up on this planet has suffered hardships and trepidations and experiences that we know nothing of. The kids coming in today were born with Pluto square Uranus, okay? My granddaughter, okay? They are equipped to deal with this stuff. They don't know it yet, okay? But they have the tools. We all came in with everything that we needed. And we all came in with the gifts and the talents that are necessary to do whatever's going to have to get done. I have great faith in the cosmos, in the universe. First of all, the universe is totally interactive. What manifests is what is given focused, conscious intention, okay? And these kids today are on the ball. There's no question. And even the generation that came in behind them. The Pluto and Capricorn generation is going to build Eckhart Tolle's new Earth. I believe that. I believe that with every cell in my body.
I was thinking of people being born now, literally. But when you think about older children and what they're facing in terms of their education, it's another challenge.
Challenges make us stronger, not weaker. Okay, it's when we aren't challenged that we're dummies. Okay, we need to be challenged, And we don't get to choose our challenges from where we're sitting now, but we chose these challenges perhaps in the bardo, before each lifetime. We knew what we were setting ourselves up for because we chose the schedule and the timetable of the relationships, the people, the events, the circumstances that were going to come into our life. The free will is how we respond to it or react to it when it shows up.
Some people don't like to hear that, yeah. but I don't disagree with what you just said at all. So we have a couple hours, Daniel. A couple minutes left here on the show today. Are there some other things that you wanted to say about the transits at this time?
No, but what I would like to talk about is something that I'm going to speak about publicly in about 2 weeks. Which I think is one of the most important talks that I've given in the 12 years that I've been speaking. And it's a talk called America at the Crossroads 2020. And I'm going to look at the chart of the United States and the current transits and the upcoming transits to it because they are remarkably illuminating. They really show, they highlight every single thing that's going on in our country, from the Supreme Court to the post office to the White House to the stock market to what's happening in our own living rooms. And I invite everybody to join me.
How?
You can go to my website, 4evolutionaryastrology.com. There will be links to the Zoom, the live Facebook and Zoom meeting for this. And if you get in touch with me at Daniel@4evolutionaryastrology.com, if you can't find it, I'd be happy to send you all the information.
All right. Well, thank you, Daniel, for being my guest once again here on Moonwise, and we hope that everybody out there is able to hold on to their sanity and get through all of this. We definitely have the means to do that.
Keep the faith.
Keep the faith. You can reach me, Mary Lynn, at moonwise@ksfr.org. Have a great week, everybody. Stay tuned for Climate One. This is KSFR White Rock Santa Fe Public Radio.